That 90-minute meeting. So clearly important. You're doing this once a week. What's in the meeting? How much do you have to prep for that? Right. And then what are the follow-ups? What comes out of the meeting?
So my prep is very little,
Okay.
actually, but the meeting is, hey, it's good news. Then it's a review of quarterly rocks or quarterly goals that we have corporately and individual, and with just the report on track or off track, or we need to talk about something, it gets dropped down to an issues list.
Okay.
It's highlights of customer and client. So anybody we need to touch, celebrate, commiserate with, it's that sort of stuff. It's a review of our scorecards. So in the law firm, we have a PI vertical and a ERISA long-term disability vertical, and we have scorecards for each. We also have a corporate scorecard.
Okay.
And most of the time, so usually 60 minutes or so is issue solving, and it's issues or opportunities, Conrad. And the reason the prep is so little is that we have a big Word document we work off of. And if something comes up during the week, rather than me running down the hall, Conrad, we got to fix this, I just drop it on the issues list. So it's going to come up, and then in the meeting, we go round and round, and we go, all right, first 3 issues we're going to talk. And if we only got 3 issues solved, we have to solve the 3 most important issues or 3 most important opportunities for that week. And then we close with a to-do list. And then if for the folks outside of the leadership group who have something now to do with the to-do list, there has to be messaging after the meeting down to those people.
Okay. When you say we, who's we? How big is this? And your firm is size X, and then how big is this?
Yeah, sure. So Ben Glass Law is about 19 under roof. I'm in practice. I'm half owner of the firm with my son, Brian. So it's Brian and I. It is Lisa, who is another personal injury attorney. It's Lauren, who is our director of marketing. It's Krista, who's Brian's wife, who is our HR director. And shortly, we may have one more leadership position there. So that's who it is.
Okay. And who covers the finance side of this, right? Because you're presumably, or is there any finance on this?
So Brian is, So Brian is the integrator in the EOS system.
Okay.
And so to the extent that finance, we do a separate whole budgeting process for the year. So we know exactly how much money we're going to spend, and we're pretty good at predicting how much money we're going to bring in every year, which is kind of amazing in a PI firm.
Yeah, okay. So
yeah,
I want to go deep on the budgeting side, but keep going.
Yeah. And so some of our metrics are financial. We keep a running score of 3 things, really. PI money in, disability money in, referral money in. We have goals for each, and we know whether we're ahead or behind. Now, those aren't the 3 most important metrics, but that's just a running score on our weekly agenda, just so we keep eyes on it.
So you mentioned budgeting, right? My experience working with law firms is few of them have a really solid budget, and if they did, the likelihood that they would stick to that is slim to none. How did you get to a point where you're running budgeting, and what does that process look like? When do you start? What are the line items? Like, what does that look like? What was your process for coming up with that budget and then sticking to it, right?
So, so it was a requirement for us in EOS. And at that time we had a different person on leadership, who was a budgeting guy. Like, this was his thing. And so he set up all the categories. And the first thing of budgeting, I mean, it's not that hard. You can certainly go and tell how much you are spending, and in this year, past 2 years. So you can get the categories, right out of QuickBooks.
Right.
And then we did, over time, I think we have refined that. So it's specific for, just to take marketing, for example, if we are marketing something in the PI side, like, we segregate that as personal injury marketing, it's disability marketing, it's marketing at large. We know what the rent is, we know what the salaries are. I mean, there aren't that many categories in a relatively simple firm like ours. So your spend is easy to predict. Now what having a budget does is it gets you to put eyes on it every once in a while and go, all right, like, what are the recurring subscriptions that we've had for 14 years that nobody really knows we have? We don't even know what we're spending. We don't read the stuff when it comes in. All right, let's start eliminating that stuff. And so, and that's what we do. And then, and everyone has this data, Conrad, you know this, it's just often hard to go and have a discipline to go look for it. But we know average case value. We know we have goals for leads and conversions and things like that. And we know that, so one of the things that we do, though, which I think is important for other PI firms in particular, is in our budgeting, we don't count the over six-figure fees. So we budget as though we'll never have an over six-figure fee case in. We know that 1 out of every 50 cases that we accept will be a whale, will be an over six-figure fee case. We know that, but it's not in our budgeting.
And that's just simple math. Like relying on that for your budgeting would be dumb, because on some years you're going to get 3 and on many you're going to get 0.
We don't have many where we get 0.
Good.
But some years you get many more than 3, right?
And you don't know where that, over 100 is a pretty big space, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And we just know that historically we're going to get them. What COVID did is it pushed a bunch of the big cases back, right? Because no trial deadline, nobody wanted to talk to you. But for us, COVID, we had good year in COVID, good year after COVID. And then we had explosive year because the big cases got kind of delayed and got resolved in 22 this year and late 21.
Okay. And do you revisit that budget quarterly? Like, what does that look like to make sure that you're on track? And what happens when you're off track?
Oh, so our budget, our dollars are almost real time.
Okay.
All right. In part because, hey, Sandy, my wife, has been doing this since I started Benglass Law with me and one assistant, right? And so pretty much today is Monday. We're current at least till last Monday, probably. Like we know to the dime where all the money is.
Right.
And so it's every month we just fill in the blank. Like a week after the month's over, we know how much money we came in, and we can compare it to the budget. Right. And so we know, are we ahead or behind? Okay. Is there, and if you run into something that's a variance, now that just becomes an issue to talk about on the issues list. Okay. At a weekly meeting.
So let me go really tactical on this. One of the things, I'll use marketing as an example because it's easy for me. One of the things I talk to lawyers about a lot is like, oh, well, if this works, we're gonna blow the budget. We're just gonna spend more and more money on this, right? I think what you're really saying is we have a set amount of dollars that we're going to spend, and it's more a matter of where we put those dollars, right? Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, yes and yes. Look, so one of the questions that is on your list is, if you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing, what would it be? Well, the one thing is accurate information, right? Okay. And so, and in this world of different ways people will find you and the 7 different ways they may see you before they come to you, that's challenging. And part of why we're working with Mockingbird is because you're going to help us, we hope, simplify that. Right. And so and we're blessed. Like we have worked very hard at this. We have good profit margins, we make good money, and we've got extra money. So if we found like the opportunity, and we were sure because we had tested, then we're not going to limit ourselves to our budget. If I know that $1 sent out brings 7 back, okay, and we knew that by testing, boom. What we don't do, we try not to do, is guess and take, oh, well, maybe this time that will work. Right. And so, we are pretty disciplined with the rigor of testing. In the old days, you'd put it out in the yellow pages, Conrad, and you wouldn't know for 24 months, and then you couldn't change it for another 24. Right. Now you can change things. So again, and when those whale case fees do come in, the other thing is we're very generous with our teams about those. We look for opportunities not to just pay bonuses, but to enhance the quality of life. And so, that's part of the reason why we don't count that money in the budget. We don't predict that money in the budget.
Okay. How do you do budgeting with staffing, right? So is it, I'm going to hire 2 attorneys, we're going to give raises? How does that work into your equation?
So a couple different ways. Number one, sort of the low-level, entry-level jobs, even up, say, through mid-level paralegals, we have what we call bands. So we may pay between 35 and 42 for this type of a paralegal. Again, I think we're very generous on on bonuses. And just, for example, when PPP money came in, Conrad, we didn't need it. We didn't know when we applied what the year would be. We qualified.
Played
We
the same
absolutely
game, right?
qualified.
Yeah.
We took every dime and gave it to our employees. It was
Yeah.
their money. The owners didn't take any part of that. We
Okay.
just split it up. And so, and we told them that's exactly what we're doing. Like, this is your money, right? The government took it, we're giving it back. And so, and then when the big over 6-figure fee cases come in, we divvy up portions of that and give it out. But then for senior leadership, I think we do something that's very creative, which is, Conrad, if you work for me as a senior administrator or attorney or whatever, question I want to ask you is, how much money do you want to make?
Right.
And whatever dollar you say, my response is, it's terrific. You see how the money works around here. So scheme with me how that is going to happen. I want that to happen, because if you're making more, I'm making more, and let's do it. And so I want you to be an entrepreneur, not just a good lawyer, not just a good senior non-lawyer. And I want you to come to me with ideas. And so, Karen, I hear some lawyers, they go, well, yeah, I've got so-and-so on a percentage bonus. Last year I had to pay him $1 million. Like, and they're saying that like it's a complaint.
Right.
I'm like, well, if you had to pay them $1 million, you probably made a bunch more money. And isn't that the way? And that lawyer now probably will stay, right?
Right.
So I think, what we've been, I think, good at is looking at the world through win-win glasses.
Okay.
And trying to come up with things to, I want people to grow, and I want them to grow so much they could leave, but like it so much that they'll stay and they'll bring their friends.
How do you do the latter part?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds nice. How do you get the latter part? Like, how do you lock that in?
Yeah. So I think we're pretty good at it. First, we're ruthless in hiring to hire to core values. And we have a 90-day probationary period. So if we got married and it really isn't like the right marriage fit, you can go your way, we'll go our way. If we send you packing after 90, we're going to pay you for another 30 days, right?
Okay.
So we're ruthless about that. We onboard and teach and reinforce and coach on core values all the time.
You have written core values to make that happen? You have written core values to make that happen?
We have written core values, and we tell them, like, core values is how you treat each other. It has nothing to do with how we treat clients or anything else. It's how are we going to work together under one roof here? Okay. And then the magic question is, Conrad, is what would be perfect for you? Like if you come here as a paralegal, I want you to know that what I want to hear is what would make this the place that you would never leave and you would invite your friends to. And I said, Conrad, look, I can't promise that I can do that, but I'll tell you that if you don't know the answer, then I can't know the answer. And if you do know the answer and you tell me, we can work towards it. And I will 100% try to make that happen. And that's why, Conrad, we have a team here that would die for us. I mean, they like it. Now they're not all here for the long term, because some are here, as a pathway to law school or graduate school or something. That's cool. But I have people here that when we ask them, we have Brian does these Thrive lunches, right, with folks where it's not about the business, it's not about anything. It's like tell me about your growth plans. Tell me about your own life. What are the things you would try if you knew you couldn't fail? Like, really cool conversations. And we have people that go, no, like, I like this. I want this to be my forever job.
Right.
Great.
So those Thrive conversations, it's a lunch, it's casual. How do you make sure that they happen?
Oh, it's one of Brian's rocks. It's one of his, and rocks are things that you do outside of or in addition to your job. So Brian's, of course, running cases, he's managing. Yeah. And he reports. I mean, like, it's one of his quarterly goals. So he reports back to leadership on that. And he schedules it. So look, all the stuff that we do like that, the sort of soft skills, we think we're pretty good at it, but it's mainly because Brian and I are 100% aligned that we built a law firm to be a place where people can thrive. Right. We didn't build it for justice. We didn't build it to make all the money. We didn't build it for any of that stuff. We built it where it'll be a place that puts energy into the world. And because when Brian and I are energized, when our team is energized, the clients are really well served. And then what that does, Conrad, is it has the clients have the relationship with the team. And my team is superstar. So that allows me to work 15% on, quote, legal cases, right? And still get the best results. We match any firm in our area for our size and and our lifestyle. Like, we're not doing complicated multi-week trials. That we don't want to do that, right? But we're running a good law firm that makes good money, energizes the world, and our team is energized and their families are energized.
So moving kind of this role from lawyer to CEO, what are the one or two skills that you picked up that like that you've grown the most in, where it's like, if I've been really good at this at the beginning of that journey,
Yeah.
boy, we would have been 2 years or 3 years or 10 years ahead of where we are. Like, what were one or two skills that like you've built over time that you'd really push someone to build into?
Yeah. So the thing I would have done earlier has been open to coaching
Okay.
more earlier. In the, the fear of coaching is, gee, I don't really want people to see how crappy it looks inside the doors here. Right. And so, when I started, I was a good lawyer. I didn't know anything about marketing and business building. So getting on board with coaching, and I've coached with Sammy Chong. Many of your listeners will know or heard of Sammy. He's up in Toronto. He's the corporate philosopher. And Sammy doesn't look at my books. He doesn't look at my numbers. It's not that kind of coaching. It's, hey, Ben, what do you want your life to be? Let's go get some real clarity on that. Let's ask the universe. Let's have, or if I need to have a hard conversation with somebody, it's like I get coaching on that stuff. So that's been the big thing, which leads to number two, which is letting go of the vine, right? Which is, for example, in our ERISA work, which is a niched federal practice that's weird and has all these regulations. I'm like, how could I ever scale this? I'm the only one that can ever write a brief. Right. Sammy's like, I don't think that's true. Let's go find out. And it wasn't true. So we have, we were able to round up smart people, teach them what we do. And what that allows me to do, Conrad, is to put a fine icing on a really good cake, right? So ultimately, I'm responsible for the legal work. My clients are really well served by my team, but it frees me up. That 15%, I'm not thinking like, how many pages is an interrogatory answer? I'm thinking like, what's the strategy dealing with the insurance company, defense lawyer, dealing with my client, whatever it is, that's going to make my client's life better.
Right. Okay. You talked about coaching. Where do you met Sammy? There's a big movement around masterminds right now. I know you've been involved in that as well. For you personally, there's reading, like, where do you get your energy, idea, enthusiasm, change? Where does that come from?
Yeah, so it's a good question. Where do you get your energy from? So I was in Orlando 2 weeks ago, Russell Brunson's ClickFunnels, Funnel Hacking Live. Like, it's all non-lawyers, mainly entrepreneurs. Like, that was my friggin' energy. Like, I've missed that so much in COVID. Honest, who are trying to create a product or a service and stand out. And you're in a room like that, Conrad, and you see all these lawyers that spend all this money to go to law school, right?
Right.
And who are struggling, and depression seems to be the default, although it shouldn't be. And you have these people running businesses, the dog poop cleaner up business, right? Who's making $1 million a year in profit. Right. Okay, I want to be in that room with that guy because I want to know like who he's listening to and what he's talking to. So for me, it was, of course, finding my mentor, Dan Kennedy, and finding the world of entrepreneurs who are good people. And by that, I mean, they're seeking win-win relationships. If they say they'll do something, they'll do it. They're honest. You don't have to go and check, right? You do go and check, but you don't have to go and check. Right. That is the world that gives me energy. And anything that goes against the status quo of the legal industry, like, I'm for. We have, as we speak, there's the Virginia State Bar, the last issue of their magazine has a wellness column that begins by stating as a fact, as an irrefutable fact, that lawyers' lives should suck, basically, right? And that our baseline is depression and sadness. And I'm like, you guys are crazy.
Right. There was this last weekend a tragic suicide in the legal profession. Well-known guy. Moving completely differently. One of the things, I guess, this comes out of EOS, but you can only look at so many metrics, right?
Yeah.
What are the 3, 4, 5 metrics that you look at that are, or let's not even say that you look at most frequently, but that you see as to be the most important, right? Like if you're looking at a small dashboard, what does that look like?
Yeah, right. So we call it like if I was on an island and you could only send me 3 numbers.
Yeah, yeah,
All right, so I want to know what the average case value is. So again, we're small. We do PI, which is basically automobile. We do this long-term disability. We know the average value of a case. All right.
okay,
That's important because it helps direct how much money I'm willing to go spend to get another one of those cases. All right. And actually, really, you should be willing to spend about the value of the case to go and to get that case and to have that client, and that client will bring you more clients and all of that stuff. We want to know, we keep our eyes on the qualified leads as a ratio of all leads that come in, because as you know, like different lead sources bring you different quality of leads.
right.
So frankly, our auto case load, our clients mainly, they're the kind that are going on and clicking on a Google ad by and large, right? They're doing research, they're fluent, they've got good insurance, good health. It's a part of where we are, and it's a part of who we're looking to represent, right?
Okay.
And you can be very deliberate about that. You don't have to represent everyone. So the ratio of qualified leads to all leads, and then actually then segregated if you can by lead source. So that's really important.
How
And
do
then
you
in our
define
list,
qualified leads?
so it's going to be different for every firm. So
Okay.
for us, it's accident with property damage, with continuing healthcare treatment
Yep.
by doctors, and usually what Brian tells me is that everybody here has insurance. So that's usually not an issue for our
Okay.
cases, that one of the drivers is going to have insurance. And that, that's it for us. So ER treatment only, no go for us. We don't really do slip and falls. We do dog bites in cars, right? We understand dog bites in cars in Virginia. So anything else, yes, another thing that we have given ourselves permission to do is we've built a firm where if it's complex, well, we don't need to do it. We'll send you to somebody who's really interested in that. We've got enough cases, we're happy, and we don't want to get bound down in multi-week trials. That's us. That's what we've decided to do. And then on the other side, our main lead gen for the ERISA disability is if you have a denial letter in your hand, send it to us and we'll give you a report. We'll give you feedback on that. And we know the value of each denial letter we get. And we know how many denial letters we need to get a case that we want. We know the value of that case. And then in that world, Conrad, once we get somebody back on claim, like that each person we have on claim is worth $1,000 a month to us. So we've got 50K a month that comes in, whether we open the doors or not. We open the door to get the check, take it to the bank, right? And that's a cool place to be, to have recurring revenue that's managed, proactively managed. It didn't, you don't go from 0 to 50 overnight, but those are three big things that we look at.
Final question.
Too short.
I'm hypothetically a lawyer trying to grow a firm aggressively, and I'm spending 100% of my time, probably 120% of my time, working on legal matters right now, right? So I'm busy, but I want to kind of grow the firm. What is the first step? What is that one skill that you should pick up? What is the one thing you should be looking out outside of the lawyering part of being a lawyer that moves you closer towards being a CEO from doing the lawyering work?
Yeah, so it's a hard thing, the one thing, but I think the thing that I've done very well is to say no to a lot. So whatever that caseload is that's causing you to spend 120% of your time,
Yeah.
well, probably 80% of that caseload could go. Certainly a significant proportion of that caseload could go, thus freeing you up to spend more time with your family, to think about your marketing, and to not depress your staff, because your staff is depressed by dealing with the crappy cases and the crappy clients you have. And so eliminating that. And the second thing is being able to audit your marketing and eliminating the bad spend. I was talking to a guy this morning, he was up in Canada, just looking at his website. He said, I don't have a lot of money. My website, I looked at it, I said, okay, even if you don't have a lot of money, we can at least rearrange the stuff you have on the website,
right,
to make it stand out a little bit, because your firm name followed by your picture right underneath that ain't doing anything.
Right.
And so, and that's what I'm really good at. So I think my superpower in the world, Conrad, is for lawyers is show me what you're doing now. Show me where you think you want to go. And I'll help you figure out the next hour and the next dollar, like how you should go and spend those assets. And since I'm not selling you websites or PPC or newsletters, anything like that, I'll give you an unbiased view of what's next. And I'll also instill you with the confidence that this can be done, that you deserve a life that is fun, that is, you get to do, we call it doing work you love with people that you love. Like you deserve that life. You're not going to read that in any bar journal. They think you deserve the sucky life. I think you deserve the great life. And I can show you, and many others like me in this space can show you thousands of lawyers who are enjoying, whose lives are flourishing, practices are flourishing, clients are flourishing. That should be the default. And that's what Ben Glass is really, my own little voice here in Northern Virginia, like trying to change that default for lawyers, because it is sad. Suicides, depression is very real. And, it's sad when that happens, but I think in large part because the profession, they don't even know how to have the conversation you and I are having today. Like this is a foreign language to the elites of the profession, and that's a crime.
Right. Okay. I want to ask you a couple other questions on, you work with your son.
Yeah.
How did that come about? And so let's go to the how did that come about, and then I've got a bunch of follow-ups, and I'm going to try and get this section into a whole nother thing around multi-generational law firms. But yeah, how did working with your son come about?
So Brian is the oldest of 9, went off to law school, and the last thing we wanted to have happen was come back to work for dad, because he'd heard dad's stories, right? He needed to go out and make his own mark. He tells the story. He went out, worked for one firm, found out like as soon as he started that one of their rules was you couldn't take the day before Thanksgiving off. He said, that's not going to be in my playbook. So he was out of there by January, went to another firm and with a good guy and developed a personal injury practice in a particular ethnic niche here in Northern Virginia, and did well. But then he said, he and his law partner, they never had real discussions about like, what does this look like in the future? What are we trying to build here? It was a good law firm, but it was just a law firm. Right. He saw a rocket ship getting ready to take off here, in terms of not just, people come into our office, Conrad, and they go, what is this really? Well, this is, I don't know, maybe it's Google for law. Maybe it's people who have fun working together for law. And so 4.5 years ago, really about 4 years ago, he said, let's join forces. He brought a type of case here. And our internal rule is if mom approves, we're good. So the whole firm valuation, buy, sell, what the future looks like had to have mom's blessing, his mom, my wife, Sandy, and that was good. So that's we're very fortunate. Yeah. Well,
with 9 kids, I mean, how did that, there has to be a dynamic with the other kids that did that get strange?
No, here's a dynamic. They're all doing things that they like doing. Okay. So I have pastor, teacher, firefighter. And our kids grew up at the table of, you can have anything in this world you want. You have to go and work for it. If you're interested in learning about any of these things, like I'll show you what I know about it. I have dog groomer, everything. So I have not heard, and I do not believe that there is any poor dynamic about it. Everybody knows that we work very hard, but they're all working hard at the things that they love to do too. Right. And so that's been our breakfast and dinner table message forever. You get to create your own life.
All right, let me go back to that rule. If mom approves,
because I didn't give him anything. I didn't give Brian anything, right? He earned it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I love that perspective. So you mentioned the golden rule with your wife. If your wife approves of it, it's green light, right?
Yeah.
Any other guardrails on the relationship? I mean, so bluntly, I think it could be really hard working with another generation, right? I remember my very first job ever. It was the 4th generation, and you could see that friction. It was just very apparent. Yeah.
So we have a rule at the law firm. So first of all, Brian and I have quarterly same page meetings, same page lunches, where we ask each other, is this still good for you?
Okay.
And we have the relationship when I think this is necessary, but I don't think it's particularly family. You know, like the relationship with your leadership team is, I need to know if this is perfect for you.
Right.
And we need to be able to have open and honest discussion.
Hey, Ben.
There you go.
Ugh,
Now you're back.
sorry,
Yeah.
I lost power.
Oh, no. Okay. So,
So
uh,
the question was guardrails, right?
yeah,
how do you make sure that what are the guardrails to make sure that this works?
yeah. So the guardrails are that we have quarterly lunches, same page lunches. Is this still perfect for you? What would you like me to do better? And we have open and honest discussion about that, but that's the same discussion we have with other members of our leadership team as well. And I would say this, Conrad, that I think I've been pretty good at. If there's an issue that arises and it really may affect the long-term trajectory of the firm, then I'll defer to Brian, right? Because I'm
Interesting.
I'm in this for a shorter number of years than he is.
Yeah.
He may be living in a world of cars that don't crash into each other. I don't
Right.
know, in 20 years or something.
Right.
So, yeah, so I defer a little bit there. But you can't do this unless you're willing. So I coach lawyers, father, son, right?
Right.
And who have this tension. Like, dude, like you have to be honest with each other about what you each see for the trajectory of the firm. And
Right.
sometimes it's okay to get a divorce. Okay. And so, a firm, like it's okay to do that because you don't want the family relationship to be affected by, in a negative way, I think,
100%.
by being pissed off at the firm with each other.
How about
It's not
internally?
easy.
Like, I have to imagine there are people like, oh, well, he got that just because because of who his dad is, right? Does that come up? You mentioned he earned it, but is that universally felt throughout the firm? Does friction come up there?
So yes. So we had an associate who left.
Right.
And maybe that was a part of it. Although the question I asked this associate was, how much money do you want to make? And help me model it. And he didn't have an answer for the first part. I said, well, if you don't know that part, I can't really help you.
Right.
And so he left. And so, to a certain extent, anybody who comes in, they know like this is a father-son dynamic, right?
Right.
We are the only two owners now. That doesn't mean that that'll be like, I'm open, like anything that will make my life better, like model it. Show me how you being an owner or part owner is gonna make my life better.
Right.
And we'll do, I'll look for win-win situations. And we've had some leadership issues on, folks on leadership where the dynamic was a little tense and they are still with the firm, but not on the leadership team. But we make more and more money and we do have a great lifestyle. I mean, there's no emergencies here. We don't work weekends. We don't work at night. We don't scream. It's just not like that.
Right. Okay. Well played. I think it's probably a carryover from great parenting where you can actually work with a child, right? Not a child, but
yeah, it's a whole nother discussion, but we've got 4 adopted children, 2 with pretty severe, early childhood trauma issues. So we've had a lot of coaching on that. We had to change we parented 5 biological kids and had to relearn everything we thought we knew about parenting. And so, and that's a fundamental. So being able to be coached on that change and then to be aligned with your spouse on changing everything you know about parenting, I think that's really been a gift to us to help communicate, in the law firm with our adversaries, with our clients, whatever.
Right.
I mean, you listen to this and think, well, shit, like every day is wonderful. Every day is not wonderful, but damn near every day is wonderful. We're blessed. We work very hard at it. And again, we've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in coaching. We have an EOS coach. Got Sammy Chong coach. I've spent a lot of money with Kennedy and coaching. So, that's
go back to that again. You spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on coaching.
I did. Yeah. I was talking to Dan recently and I said, I'm sure I spent $250,000 with you already. My team thinks that's low. And that doesn't include our EOS coaching. It doesn't include the money I've spent with Sammy. And that's over 20 years. So maybe $350 over 20 years.
Right.
It's a not insignificant amount of money invested in myself and invested in the team to get better. Like, because it was really hard to do it before I had coaching, because you had to learn every mistake by getting head over the head with a sledgehammer.
Right.
Well, when I'm in a mastermind group, I have, 20 other people's 25 years experience
Right.
to learn from. That's the value there. And I've both been the leader of mastermind groups, but I have been in mastermind groups. And the ones I'm in, I want to be in with guys and gals who are doing things bigger, better, and faster than I am. I want to be like the smallest player in the room.
Right.
And those are really cool groups, as you know, because you're in Seattle and you have friends, right, that are doing big things. It's just really cool to be in a room with those people. They think differently, and they certainly think differently than 99% of lawyers, Conrad.
So that's an interesting perspective. I literally just had this conversation with one of our clients. He said, we have to move out of all of our masterminds because when we were started, we were the smallest and now we're the biggest, and I'm not getting anything out of that anymore.
Yeah.
Last question, promise. I've said that 7 times, but how do you find the right coach? How do you even know what like if you're a baseball player, you're looking for a batting coach because your batting average is garbage, right? But how do you know as a business owner what type of, we've talked a lot about EOS or alluded to EOS, but is that the right first step? Like what is, okay, so coaching, big deal for you. Where do you start? Like what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And so first, getting referrals. So somebody like you who's been helped by somebody else or a particular system, I mean, that's worth at least listening to, right? I'm not going to tell you what you need to believe, but I'm at least going to open the door and show you things that you may not have seen before.
Right.
And I think when you're looking for referrals, you want to find someone who says, and I would stay with this person, or I would go back to them, or this is exactly what they did for me. So we've had we had one EOS coach for 3 years, then by mutual agreement, he got somebody who has a different talent set, right?
Right.
And actually the first guy is now helping us coach in great legal marketing, or helping coach us in great legal marketing. Same for Sammy Chong. In the beginning I was coaching with him once a week, and it was a lot. But it's about life. It's not so much about the business metrics.
Right.
And I think, the other thing is here's the funny part, Connor, is when you invest in a coach and you pay that coach a lot of money, you will do what they say. Otherwise you're wasting your money. And so for most any coach, like if you're a free coach or an expensive coach, if you actually did what they said and had rigorous discipline to do it, then your business would improve. So the paying of a lot of money is an extra incentive to get your shit done by next Monday that you said you were going to get done. Right. And that's what you miss in free mastermind groups and free coaching and stuff like that. It's like, or just watching YouTube videos. Okay, there's no accountability there. Right. If you're writing a check, that's a big accountability. And you always, and the other thing that a good coach should be able to say to you is, you work with me and my fee will become irrelevant. And in every case in which I've spent lots and lots of money with coaches, the fee has become irrelevant, even though the fee sounds really big.
Right. It's not.
Irrelevant. Yeah, it's not now.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing. Like a lot of people want to go learn on YouTube, show up at Facebook groups, all well and good. You have to be an uber disciplined person. And then you still need someone to be accountable to besides yourself, besides your family, besides your law partner, I think.
Love it. That's awesome. That's awesome. Man. So we are starting on Thursday with our first EOS session. And it's because of you. Seriously, like 100% because of you. Not 100%, but you were the like off the cliff for me.
Yeah. So you have your vision building day one?
Whatever day one is called, we're doing that.
Yeah. It'll be it. So here's what the experience may look like to you and feel like is you're going to be like, if you go VB1, VB2, you're going, holy crap, we got so much stuff we need to fix. And this is going to be so much work. I don't know how we're going to get this all done. And I will tell you that it will be worth it.
So the funny thing is, I literally on Friday, we started the conversation with our financials. On Friday, I was like, we're going to be so special for this guy because we're just on this tear. We're just killing it right now. And he's picking us up right where we're just, it's going to be great with the winds at our back. And then come Monday, and I'm like, what is going on in QuickBooks? It's a disaster. We got to fix everything. So
yeah. That's very normal. And even in the beginning, after we went through the first year and Brian and I were setting like 5-year goals, and like, man, I'm not sure we want to work that hard to get to the number that we were first posting up on the board, because we had to work so hard the first year.
Right.
Now we're blasting through those specific numbers that we thought we didn't want to work so hard to get. We're blasting through those numbers.
That's great.
And it, it's a testament to, we have good coaches, but we play the game every week. We have our meeting. We prepare for our quarterlies. We have ruthless, honest, open discussions with each other.
Right.
Sometimes we get a little mad at each other, but we walk out of that room aligned.
Yeah.
And so we're blessed, I think, by we have smart people, but most lawyers and most business people, they just give up too early on this. Like, it didn't work.
No, I'm very excited about this. We have needed this, and for me, my ego has gotten in the way, right? Like 100% my ego has gotten in the way. And it's a combination of my horrendous ego with, like, I've never really worked at a well-functioning firm. Ava was great for like 3 years. It was awesome as it was building, and then it really fell apart when the venture capitalists just turned us into you need X in order to get the valuation, and everything we did was around X, regardless of the ethics behind it.
Yeah.
And so that was like, but I've always worked at small businesses or a business that I've owned, right? So like,
and you've worked really hard. And you worked really hard. And one of the things I guarantee you, in about 24 to 36 months, you will experience is something called founder's remorse. So write that down. Founder's remorse. It's like when your business gets to the point where it really doesn't need you anymore, and you're not working as hard as you've worked your whole life,
right?
And you're making more money than you've ever made before. You're like, this just doesn't feel right.
Right.
And it's a natural progression of a business. Now, what does it do? It frees you up to be more creative in your life, to be more creative with your business. You can hire more people, you can pay more taxes, all of that stuff, right? But it's for people who have founded any business, law firms, marketing firms, whatever, we work really hard to get to a certain point.
Yeah.
And we have largely not experienced the self-running freedom of a cool business where everybody just likes working there, and they want to bring their friends, and your clients love you. And you're like, I don't even know their names anymore.
Right. Yeah.
So you'll get there, but those are different phases of ownership. When you get, I think, good coaching, you have the discipline to do what the coach says. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for kind of giving that shove. EOS had come up over and over again. I read Traction. We tried it. We kind of did it poorly. We've got rocks, which get done half of the time.
You'll get better at setting rocks. That's part of the process. Is the rocks you set in the first year will be, in retrospect, kind of crappy. I mean, you think you're doing really good, and then in the second year, like, okay, we're getting kind of better at not biting off too much to chew, of picking the things that will actually move the company forward.
Yeah, my number 2 has bitten off more than he can chew every single. He's never gotten all of his rocks done in the last, like, I don't know, 8 quarters. And it's like, why do we keep doing this? It's just dumb. It's just dumb.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll be a better leader. You'll be better leaders.
Yeah.
That's very cool. It's a cool experience. But it'd be just like going out learning a new, like tonight, I'm going out for my 3rd pickleball lesson. And it's kind of cool to learn something new.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I owe you big time.